This is Baruch Fleischman here for the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and today is the third day of the week of Parshas Tzav. And here we are on page Shin Yud Ches in Parshas Tzav in the Matuk Midivash. We're going to read across the Zohar across the top, and it says Rabbi Acha Pasav Omer. So Rabbi Acha began and spoke, and he takes this part of the Parsha, this Pasuk. So there's a fire on the altar that you will arrange it and set it on fire. So this idea of arranging the fire and starting the fire, so what are we doing with all of this idea? So why do we also need to know that every single morning the Kohen has to come and put wood on this fire? Why does it have to be done by a Kohen? Because we learn like this. Eish b'kol aser dinahu. Whenever you see the word eish or fire, also we see this on redness, and it's other lines that he uses, like the left line, for example. He means to say that they're dinim. But the Kohen comes from the right side. He comes from the side of chesed. And it's absolutely opposite from din. It's very far away from it. The whole kahana lo is damen b'din la'almin. So the Kohen never stands in, we'll see, never prepared for din. That's not his service. I think that's what he means. We'll get a better definition. But now here, in this case, it's him that has to start a fire. In other words, the Kohen has nothing to do with dinim and fire. He's trying to sweeten them all the time and extinguish them. But on the other hand, here we say that he has to set the fire going. Ksiv ubir Allahu HaKohen, that's the Kohen that starts this fire. So the Zohar says like this, Elohachiyuk olifna, but this is where we learn it out. Barnash, a man, the Asi lemechte kamal mare. He comes and he sins before his master. In other words, the person makes a mistake. Who okid garme b'shalvuhe b'shalhovisa the Yetzirah. He causes himself to be kindled with the fire of the Yetzirah. V'Yetzirah mesitra de ruach misavaka asya, and the Yetzirah. This Yetzirah comes from the side of Tuma. That's where it comes from. Sharya be ruach misa'av, and as a result of that, this ruach of Tuma comes and rests on the person because of the sin. Then the Zohar said, "V'lazimnin ish demodu commanded the asi mechai. Sometimes there is a designation of a particular carbon that fits the sin that the person did. Ubal the karba al madbaka gadamile, and so therefore he has to bring on the carbon, on the mizbeach, a carbon which is similar as a kapara for the mistake that he made. V'lo ish to say v'lo yisbata of hachor ruach mitza'ava. The law of ish to say that's not destroyed, not nullified, this bad, that it can only be nullified, this ruach mitza'ava, the ruach of a tumah. Whether it's from the man himself or something that comes out from the man. The only thing that could remove it is the fire of the altar. Because that fire that we saw before, it burns up the ruach of Tumah. Now remember, ruach is like a wind or a breeze or a vapor or an air that goes along with fire. And this is a ruach that blows the fire of Tuma, the zinin, bishim, ma'alma, and all different kinds of ministering punishers in the world. So here we have the Kohen. The Kohen is the man that has to put the, I think I read it wrong. V'kahana b'da is kavan l'sakna esha. So this is actually the kavana of the Kohen, is to build or rebuild or repair the fire. The boyer zinin bishim ma'alma that come along and causes all kinds of bad elements to burn in this world. So he said, so I think the lo yidachun leila alman, and this is the reason why the fire should never be extinguished at all. And not only that, but it should not be weakened the strength of that fire. That fire has to burn all night long in a strong way. The savra of the tukva, in order to be able to break the strength, the tukva, akra bisha ba'alma, that of the other side, which is evil with common evil. V'ado lo tikbe. And this is the reason why you have to keep the fire going all the time. Now, to come over here, there were a few places there it wasn't sure of exactly the world's best translation. So here we're going to come and we're going to read this Zohar with the translation of the Matuk B'Devash. Let me see if I can get this zoned in a little bit better. The Zohar says, Rabbi Acha Pasuk V'Amar. So he wants to explain our Pasuk, which is Va'esh HaMizbeach Tukad Bo. This means you'll light a fire underneath the Mizbeach. Lo Sichbe. And then he goes on to say, don't let it go out. Bir Alecha HaKohen 18 Baboka. And the Kohen is in charge of making sure that fire burns every single morning. In other words, he starts it in the morning, that it gets replenished. V'shal Masha Kosev, and asked about this puzzle. V'esham B'Beach Tukad Bo, so it's the Kohen that lights the fire on the Mizbeach. Amai, ma tam shetzarek lihios tamid eish dolekes al Mizbeach. What's the reason why you have to have a constant flame on the altar? Va'od, Masha Kosev, then not only that, but this is also written. Ubir alecha HaKohen 18 baboka, that the Kohen is in charge every single morning of making sure that the fire is going. Amai. So the Zohar asks, why? Lama mva'irim es eish dafka baboker. Why is it specifically in the morning time that we say that we have to deal with the fire? Be'esis orderless midas chesed. And he says the reason why is because morning represents chesed. And it's chesed that starts the fire. V'od b'kahana ramai. So you could ask the same question by a Kohen. V'lama dafka Kohen sark lahavir v'se'esh. Why is the Kohen the one that has to ignite the fire? Elam eish mizbeach. V'hatanini, because we learn like this. Eish b'kol asar dinahu. Wherever you find fire, you find dinim, punishment. Eish b'kol makom. Every place you see it. Hu romezes ala din v'hagavura. It's a reference to din, punishment, and gavura, and overwhelming strength on the side of correction, called din. But the Kohen, on the other hand, comes from the right side. Urachiku hu min dino, and very different, opposite from din. V'hu rakuk min din, whereas din squeezes, and din transforms, and din molds, and din punishes along the way with all of the friction that comes from it. Chesed is the opposite, no friction, just pouring out chesed. Because how could it be? Now the Zohar's question is, or the Matuk says the Zohar's question is, how could you use chesed to deal with din? The whole kahana below is damen bedin la'almin ki hakohen einam is damen bedin la'olam. He's never there to carry out din at all. If you're talking about the lowest possible level, I don't know if he means the lowest possible level or the lightest kind of din. But here he has to start the fire of dinning going. So why does he have to start the dinim in the world? Why should it be a Kohen? Because it's written that is the Kohen that sets the fire on it. He's the kindler. A Matarat, so it answers like this. This is what we learn. Barnash, a man, who comes to sin. Is a person going to make a sin, or he did a sin? Who okid garme b'shal hu visach the Yetzirah. What he's doing is he's kindling himself with the fire that comes from the Yetzirah. Who soref as atzbach b'shal heves ha'esh al Yetzirah. He burns himself through this flame of the Yetzirah. He's on fire with all kinds of tumah. V'yetzirah misitra de ruach. V'sitra akram. V'yetzirah misitra de ruach misa'avaka asya. He said because of Yetzer Hara ba mitzad ruach hatuma, it comes from the side of tuma. So here you have a Kohen who always comes from the side of talmud and chesed. He's lighting a fire that's coming and going to burn from the side of tuma. Sharyeh be ruach misava, and so the person who sins now comes and he has dwelling upon him the ruach hatuma. V'al shora ba'adam ruach hatuma. So he says, "V'lazimnim ish demoidin karbandi da'asim ha'sitras." Now sometimes he says, "L'pamim noidin b'nikarim ha'karbanas abayim etzadahu." Now for the side of din, sometimes we have a match between what a person has done, thinking of doing, and at the same time that comes from the karbanos and the side of the tuma. Kagon imakribim carbon chotos. Let's say, for example, a person brings a sin offering. It's that Yochid, it brings a one animal. Series Izim, it should be a male goat. So he says, Ruach HaTuma Shora Olov, because there's a Ruach of Tuma that always rests on goats. Now, there's other places in the Zohar. The Zohar discusses the nature of goats. I was a goat raiser at one time. I've said before that one time I had 25 goats. And I can tell you that goats are not like sheep or cows. You take a cow or a sheep, you put it out in the pasture, and gesund hate, let them go. On a goat, on the other hand, if you put a goat out in the pasture, he won't eat the grass. He'll try to break out and go over to the neighbor's garden and eat that. You may find them up on the roof, but if he finds trees, then they rape the trees. These are goats. Goats have a nature which is not 100%, well, they're difficult. But tzarach lahachriv al mizbeach davar hadayim b'lecheto. So therefore, a person has to bring an animal. In this case, for a sin, is a goat. Which a goat is a little bit of a wild, domesticated animal. Because when the person sinned, it overcame him, this Yetzer Hara, v'hemshek al atzmo ruach hatuma, and he brought upon himself this ruach hatuma. Kach tzarek l'chiyos karbanus iris izim sheshor alad ruach hatuma. So that's also, he has to bring this male goat called a buck goat in order to be able to, that has this ruach hatuma that easily is attached to it. Remember, this is the goat that ultimately goes to Azazel as well. So in order to burn it up on the base of a beach. What are you burning up? That wildness which is affected by tuma that we find in this animal. And now it's found in a person. And the Matrix translates, Ve'ena kala ve'ena misbatelas ruach hatuma. So this ruach hatuma is never nullified, never stopped. Bein mina adam hachoite, whether we're talking about the person who's doing the sin, or bein mitzad the tuma shached ba mimenu, or the tuma itself never goes away. You can't get it away, and the impression that was made in the person is there too. Ella, but there's one way you can get rid of it. And he says that Ella ba'ei shalom mizbeach, only on the fire on the mizbeach. Shenimsachas me'ei shal ma'ala, which extends down from the fire that's coming from up above. Shehi bechinas chesed klape ei shal mata, which is the aspect of chesed. If you look at it in relationship to the eish that's coming from up above. Now understand this. He's saying, make a comparison like this. If you had dinim coming out of Bina, which is in a world and a dimension beyond Zeranpin, and you had it coming from there, but it's still gevuros that are coming from there. But when they wind up in Malchus, in the lower end of it, in relationship to Malchus, it's like a chesed. Because once it degenerates down from Bina all the way down into Malchus, then you have the original really looks nice compared to the finished product. So therefore, these karbanos, the fire of it, it has the ability, the strength, the batal of lakalos as ruach hatuma. It has the ability to nullify, to make an end of the ruach hatuma hababara mitzad the gevura that comes to the side of gevura. Tahaku eshem ve'era ruach mitzava v'zinin bishim ma'alma. Ki eshaku, that is the fire of Tuma that's inside of the person. And now we have a fire on top of the Mizbeach. Meve'eres ruach hatuma, mini ruchos, so it nullifies all different kinds of Tuma. And all of different kinds of spirits haros min ha'olam that come into a person, of black thoughts that people have. Ki hi eish ochelas eish, because this fire is a fire that eats fire. It's the fire really of kindness. It's very interesting. V'kahana b'da is kaven l'sachna eish. So what's the Kohen doing here? V'hakohen abo mitzad chesed. Kohen comes from the side of chesed. Niskaven l'zecha v'sakin v'la'arok es eish mizbeach. He has the kavanah there to build and to arrange all of the fire that's going to be on the mizbeach. Why? Because the fire is going to be a fire that converts din to chesed. The bayer zinim bishim alma, that he's to remove kadesh l'shetivoyer, that you remove it to sarap and then burn. As many ruchos haros min ha'olam, all of these different kinds of bad ruach that come from the world. V'ratzon lomer, into the world. V'ratzon lomer, the fisha hakohen hu mitzad chesed, since the Kohen comes from the side of chesed. V'lachein hu mesugul lezeh levatel as kochos haroim, so therefore he's specifically the one that is designated to nullify the bad ruchos haboim mitzad the gevura that come from the side of gevura. So let's look at just a little bit more as the Zohar comes to an end. And and this is the reason why we never want to turn off the fire. We want to keep the fire. We never want to let it be extinguished. To be careful. There should never be snuffed out. Elatamid tuka the eish, but it should also always be kindled of this fire on the mizbeach. Why? We want to keep it going in a blaze. So should not be weakened. The power and the strength of this fire mizbeach haromazel eish the shechina, which is really a reference to the fire that comes from the shechina. So let me read it again. In order they should be able to break as koach v'tokach, the power and the strength ha'acher of the other side, shehu ruach hatuma min ha'olam, to be able to break that, push it down, and nullify its power in the world. And this is the reason why we never want to put the fire of the Mizbeach out, because the struggle against the other side never stops. So therefore we see that a person has to struggle, or knows that it's necessary to make sure that the fire on the altar never goes out. This is the Baruch Fleischman at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and today is the third day of the week of Parshas Tzav. Today is TIFERET.